Welcome back, learners. As I have said, we are looking at the next Bible personality, and that is Moses. Now, our reference is Exodus chapter 3 from verse 1. Now, when you go through chapter 3, all of it, Exodus, now this is the story of Moses from the call, the life, and how now he died. Now, allow me now, very fast, I go through some of the important points that you should realize or we should learn in our syllabus about Moses. Yes, one, the name Moses means what? Having talked about the call of Moses, I know all of us, we know how God called Moses. God called Moses while he was a stammerer, you know that? Yes, I know you know that in our previous classes. God called Moses, and Moses was reluctant. Why? Because he felt he was a stammerer. He could not speak well. And when God called him to go and save Israelites from the hand of Pharaoh, when he complained, God gave him a spokesman. This is class 5, class 6 work that I'm reminding you, learners. He gave him who? His brother Aaron, who what? Who became his spokesman because he was a stammerer. You know that. He could not speak well. And the story now proceeds from there. Now God changed his name because his name, when he was born, it means drawn out of water. Why drawn out of water? Learners, you will come to know that. Now, he had two parents, the father known as Hamlam and the mother Jochebed or Jochebed, whatever, whichever. Those two are right. His brother was Aaron, as I have said, and Miriam was the sister. He married Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, at a place known as Midian. He had two sons, that is Gershom and Eliezer, in the same place where he married his wife. That's why he gave birth to these two sons. God called Moses near Mount Sinai, the one that you also call Mount Horeb, and appeared to him in the form of a burning bush that we were taught in our previous classes as what? Fire, presence of fire is also known as burning bush. Moses was reluctant to go back to Egypt when God called him to deliver the Israelites. And this is the reason he had killed an Egyptian, or he was a friend of Pharaoh. And later in life, when God called him to go and release the Israelites from the hand of Pharaoh, then Bible says he went and made a covenant with God at Mount Sinai by sprinkling blood on the foot of Mount Sinai. You will come to know later why he did this. And he is termed as the honed prophet in the Bible who is the greatest. And the reason is why? Because he was able to talk to God face to face. Now let me explain briefly, learners, about what I've just gone through here about the life of Moses also for better understanding. We have seen that when I know all of us, we know that the time Jesus was born, all the baby boys that were born at that time, Bible says King Herod declared that all boys should be killed. I know that. I know you know that. And there was a declaration that all houses should be searched, all hospitals, to make sure that any child who was a baby boy is killed. That was an order from King who? Herod, during Jesus' time. Why? Because King Herod was a friend of this son who was born at that time to become a king or to draw him out of the leadership of being a king. And the only way he could do is to search for that son who has been declared as a king, as a Messiah in Bethlehem, and then kill him. But the Bible says how God saved baby Jesus and the rest of the boys now that were born the time Jesus was born, they suffered the same. And that is where now we get now the life of Moses, where the mother, after the mother of Moses that you have seen, she was called who? Jochebed or Jochebed. Those two are the same. The mother could not bear, any mother cannot bear the pain of seeing the son or the daughter or the children being killed in his or her presence. So Moses' mother, Jochebed, now made a good plan. And when she heard that people were coming to kill or to search for Moses, because they knew Moses was born, so he went at a certain river, put baby Moses, that time Moses was a baby, a small baby, put him in the basket, covered him, and put him alongside the river bank. Ask me why did she choose that place? I know it is because Moses' mother knew that, yes, Pharaoh's daughter usually came to fetch water at a certain time in that place. So the mother decided to go and put that basket with the baby Moses inside. Fortunately, when Pharaoh's daughter was coming to fetch water with the servant in that river, they heard of a cry of a certain baby somewhere, and they searched and they saw a basket, that basket now, that the mother and kept aside the river. And they took that basket, and inside they saw a baby. But remember, Pharaoh's daughter did not realize that this is Joseph, this is who? Moses, I mean. This is Moses. They did not know whose even son is this. They did not know. And Moses, or baby Moses, was carried now by the king's daughter to the house. And you know, or the king's sons and daughters' requests can be given by the father or by the mother. So when they carried baby Moses at home, remember, to the palace, to the father now, the king, now they were asked, or the daughter was asked, what would you like to do with this baby? Now, the daughter to the king requested the father, who is now Pharaoh, to preserve the life of this boy or this small baby. And the only way they could do was search for a servant, a woman servant, who could take care of this very tiny small baby. Remember, it was just some days old baby or some weeks, because immediately they gave birth from hospital. Yes, the baby came home, and that's the time there was a declaration that every baby boy should be killed. So this baby Moses was a very tiny boy at that time. And so now the daughter was told, we will now look for a mother servant who could take care of the baby. Thank God, whoever was employed in that house to take care of this baby Moses was baby Moses' mother, but they did not know that. So Jochebed is the one who was employed now to take care of his own son. What a miracle on us. And now the mother could hide herself and breastfeed the boy, and the mother took care of the boy as he could have done if the boy was at his care in their home. But they did not realize until later, when Moses grew and became an adult, as the Bible says. So why do we call Moses, or why are we saying that the word or the name Moses means drawn out of water? I just gave that simple explanation of Moses to get the meaning. Yes, for better explanation of why I'm talking about the name Moses, meaning what? Drawn out of water. Now that is where Moses got that name from, drawn out of water. Why? Because of that incident of the daughter of the king, taking him from the riverbank and preserving his life. So that is his name, drawn out of water. Now, we have talked about the parents. Now, he took care, the mother took care of the boy, grew, until it came a time, as you have seen here, when God called Moses. Where was he living? He was living near Mount Sinai. But before that, Moses grew in the palace. And when he grew, he ran away from Egypt and went to hide in Midian. You may ask yourself why. He ran away because there was a time there was fight in Egypt. And Moses killed one of the Egyptians. And when he killed one of the Egyptians, he knew now if king could realize what he has done, King Pharaoh, he will be killed also. So what he did? He ran away and went to live where? In Midian. And that's why we talk about God called Moses now. When God called Moses now to send him to go and release Israelites from the hand of Pharaoh, where was he living? In Midian. Remember, learners, this time round, after he has grown into an adult, he has also even killed an Egyptian. He has ran away. He is no longer living in where? In Egypt. He has ran away, although he was an Egyptian. I know even most of the people do not know Moses was an Egyptian, but he came to tell them later that he was an Egyptian. So he feared that Pharaoh will realize what he had done, that is, killing an Egyptian, and so he ran away. So when he ran away, he went and settled in Midian. And the Bible says, in Midian, that is where now God called him. Bible says, while Moses was asleep in Midian, because he went there and he was employed by a person known as Jethro. And Jethro later became the father-in-law of Moses. Why? Because now Moses married the daughter of Jethro later. While he was there, he has married a wife, that is the daughter of Jethro. And now Jethro has become the father-in-law to Moses. He has also given birth. While he was there still in Midian, he gave birth to two sons, as we said. That is Gershom and Eliezer. You realize the word Gershom in the Bible means a foreigner, because this son was born while Moses was in Midian, because in Midian, that is not where Moses was born. Yes, learners, are we together? Yes, so the one Gershom, we will encounter a question like that. The one Gershom means what? Foreigner. This is the son of Moses, who was born while the father was in a foreign country, that is in Midian. So when he gave birth to these two sons, God in a dream at night spoke to him and told him, Moses, go back to Egypt. And Moses had a hard time because he knew what he had done, or he knew the reason why he ran away from where? Egypt. Yes, learners. So Moses went and shared with the father-in-law, that is Jethro, about the call God has given him, or the dream that he dreamed that night. And Jethro, the father-in-law, advised him wisely and told him, well, proceed and go as God has told you. But remember, before he went, he was reluctant. That is the word. Reluctant, learners. An examination, you are asked, why was Moses reluctant when God called him? Why? I've said again, it is because he knew what he has done. So he was not willing. In fact, another name for reluctant, learners, here means not willing. So you can be asked why Moses was reluctant or why Moses was not willing. So the reason is because he knew he had killed an Egyptian, and also he was afraid of who? Pharaoh, because of that action that he has done. So when he was reluctant, the father-in-law Jethro pursued him, and finally he went. When he went, God assured him, because Moses told God, unless you go with me, I will not go. But God assured him of his protection, and there he went. He carried his family and went back to Egypt. And Bible says, now God called him and told him, I want you to go to the king of Egypt, known as Pharaoh. Now remember, Pharaoh is the person that now Moses is afraid of because of what he did. But God assured him of protection. So he told him, go and tell Pharaoh that I have sent you and told you to tell him to release the children of Israel to go and serve me. Yes, and Moses asked God, now if I go there, and Moses asked me, who has sent me? What will I say? God told Moses, go and tell him, who I am has sent me. That is the name. Who I am has sent me. So God can also be called who I am. So who I am, meaning what? The Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the head. So Moses went and told Pharaoh, who I am has sent me to tell you to release the children of Israel to go and serve him. And Moses hardened his heart. He hardened his heart and did not even hear or record to what he was told to do. So Bible says God used Moses. He performed miracles through Moses' hand. Remember again, as we said, Moses was a stammerer. That's why he complained to God why he was called. He was not a good spokesman. When he went there, God told him, I will use you, or I will use what you have in your hand. That was a rod. In those days, you know that the prophets of Israel used to walk with a rod, like this one now that I have, this one. Now they used to walk with this, an example of a rod like this. And God used now that rod to perform a miracle to the Egyptian king, that was Pharaoh. So God could instruct sometimes Moses to throw that rod down, and that rod could become a snake. And Moses could think now, Pharaoh would fear that miracle. But what could Pharaoh do? He could call a sorcerers, magicians, and perform also as snakes. So he could also call his specialists, the witchcraft, the sorcerers, and they could also perform miracles, and those miracles could swallow the snake of Moses. So Moses could complain to God, now look God, whatever you see me to do to him, this guy Pharaoh is just doing the same. So what will happen? And we will look later what happened now when he used all the miracles that God gave him. What was the miracle that made him what? Release the children of Israelites. We'll look at that later as we'll be looking at the 10 miracles or the 10 plagues or the 10 disasters that God gave to Moses to go and give to Pharaoh so that he can release the children of Israel to go and serve him. Now, but before you go to that, we have said again, God called him at the foot of Mount Sinai. What he did there, when he saw the burning bush, that was the presence of God. He saw the burning bush. Remember, this time, he was taking care of his father-in-law's Jethro sheep. You know that. I know that. That time was when he was in Midian, when God called him. Don't confuse that. God did not call Moses in Egypt, runners. He called him where? In Midian. When he went and Yes, when he went and slept, the night after he had taken time to hunt, yes, to graze the sheep, the flock, the herd. That's when God spoke to him at night. Where? In Midian. So the presence of God, I know you know this, the presence of God was shown in form of a burning bush that we call fire. And God told Moses, remove your sandals because wherever you are standing is holy. I know you know this. Yes? So Moses removed his sandals because the ground was holy. And later, he went and he performed a sacrifice at the foot of that mountain because he was very happy about what God has used him to do to the children of Israel. So at the foot of the mountain, Bible says that he went and sprinkled. He went and sacrificed one of his cow and poured the blood at the foot of Mount Sinai. That's what we call sprinkling of blood. Why did he do that? He did that to show that now these children of Israel are now loyal to God. You will look at that later as you'll be looking at what? The breaks. Now for now, that is the story learners about the Moses. Is called, the meaning of his name, his parents, yes, his sons, and the place where God called him. The reason why I've just gone through that story is for better understanding as you proceed now with the real call or the real now call why God wanted Moses to lead the children of Israel where? To Canaan. And you realize later, did he now pursue and take the children of Israel to Canaan? We'll look at that later. So learners, for now, that's where I'll stop. But when I come back, we'll be looking at the disasters. Because after now God has called him, he has told him, go, tell Pharaoh to release the children of Israel. You can see, even after performing the miracle of turning the Lord, the snake into snake, Pharaoh hardened his heart. Now, what next? So next time, when I'll be back, for the next lesson, we'll be looking at more disasters, more plagues, more miracles that God gave to Moses in order to make sure that Pharaoh releases the children of Israelites.